Well, you know what they say, another day, another video. No one says that. So, as many of you might know, I am a musician. Whoa. But what you might not know is that I can play both the trumpet and the saxophone, two very different instruments. And I get a lot of questions of what's the difference between the two, or how are they different, because as far as I know, I'm the only person, at least in this area, that I've seen who can play both and like double on both gigs and just in general. So I thought I'd just talk about the differences. How are they different? How are they the same? So yeah. So both the trumpet and saxophone, as all wind instruments, use air to produce a noise, except how they do that is very different. With a saxophone, you have a mouthpiece with a reed on it that you blow, and it makes a noise like... It's pretty simple that way, not much to it. It's a natural kind of, natural kind of thing that you could do. Trumpet, you have this mouthpiece that looks like a crack pipe, and the TSA will stop you at the airport if you bring it on an airplane. Yes, that did happen to me. So with a brass instrument, you buzz into a mouthpiece, which is a really unnatural thing to do to make a sound. You are going... But you get another kind of beautiful noise, but on its own it just sounds like a dying duck. Like... Nothing special. So this is a B-flat trumpet. Both of my instruments that I play are in B-flat now. What that means is that a C on this instrument is a B-flat on the piano. B-flat. But when you read, it's a transposed instrument, so you're reading this in a whole other key. The reason for that is for trumpet that the lowest note that you can play, or the fundamental note, is a B-flat on the piano. But because it's open, and to make it more natural and easier to read on all different kinds of trumpets, you read it as though it's in C. It's kind of confusing if you don't understand, but basically whatever key your instrument is in, that's what your C, when you're reading C, it's what that note is on the piano. So there's B-flat trumpet, there's C trumpets, which orchestras or orchestral trumpet players usually use. There's E-flat trumpets. I think there's an F trumpet. A lot of people don't really use all those other ones. Now a saxophone is a little different because there's this thing called a C melody saxophone, which is in the key of C. But then they made all these other ones that are bigger and smaller, and they're in different keys. There's always debate about how and why the instruments are transposed, but for a saxophone, what it really boils down to is to make it easy, because to play all these different saxophones, which are either B, C, or E-flat for the most part, that means if you were to read it in the piano key, then you would have to learn 3 different fingerings for each saxophone. This way it just makes it easy, and that you can pick up another saxophone, play the same fingerings of the sheet music as long as the sheet music is transposed, and you're all set. But on the saxophone, you have all these other keys on it than the trumpet, which has 3 valves. And yes, it does get confusing at times playing both. Because the trumpet's very directional, it just kind of, the sound just goes out of one hole. It's easy, it projects easily. You can blast to the back of a room pretty simply. There are jazz musicians, most notably Dizzy Gillespie, who kind of started the trend, who have their bells kind of aimed at an angle, and that's so that they can kind of play over an audience and project their sound into a different place while still kind of holding it comfortably and not, this kind of thing. Saxophone, it's a little different because you have all these holes along this tube, and so sound is coming out of each of those holes that are open. There is a bell. Sound comes out of the bell, but you also have sound just leaking out the other holes. So projecting is a little harder. It's a little different in that it's not directional as much, It's a trade-off, but you can definitely project and make a noise with the saxophone. It's not like it's a quiet instrument. Both instruments are heavily used in jazz music, pop music, rock music, funk. They're both very like flexible, diverse, very versatile instruments. Versatile, that's the word. In my experience, I think that saxophone's a little more versatile. I just see more bands and groups who use saxophone over trumpet, just because trumpet is very loud, it kind of cuts through. So yeah, I think personally that saxophone is more versatile. You can see groups who use saxophone and not trumpet. It's really about just what you're looking for. That's what it boils down to. Also, the difference between the two is, I mean, size. You can see that they're not exactly, this is a lot bigger. It's also a lot heavier, meaning that transportation is another thing to take into account. You see, this is my trumpet case, which is by no means a small case, but it's not gigantic. It's not gonna like kill you. This is my saxophone case. It's massive. When the horn's in it, it's heavy as f. I bet. I have not warmed up, so I'm just stalling from playing. There's a lot of different techniques that you can use on trumpet and saxophone. It's hard to tell which one has more techniques because, I mean, you can delve as deep as you want into each instrument, but here are just a few. I'm literally just yelling into it while playing. That's called growling. It works better on saxophone, but it's the same kind of idea. Oh yeah, saxophone also requires a neck strap. There's so many more that you could go into, but I don't practice those. I would recommend checking out people like Derek Brown or Leo P. We're both saxophone players who are I don't even know how to describe it. They're on a whole different planet. But then you also have the great trumpet players who are just insane. Wynton Marsalis for one. Check out his recording of, Carnival of Venice. The ending is insane. There's a lot of better players than me. I can't really demonstrate everything, but you kind of get the point. In the end, the two instruments are very different, but also quite the same in their own respective rights. I mean, they have their place in every genre of music, except, see, I don't think that classical saxophone is necessarily the best, just because most of it isn't written for saxophone, but that's just my opinion. Not saying I'm correct, just thought I'd put that out there. But yeah, that's pretty much how much I can sum up, really. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, subscribe, do whatever, I don't care. Yeah. Thanks. If anyone can do this well, please let me know.